Moadim Simcha. Hope you're doing really well on this incredible time period that we're living in. Yes, we are experiencing war in a unimaginable way to how we could have possibly expected to have experienced this Pesach. And at the same time, that definitely has shed immense light from our Purim to our lives, our day-to-day lives, as well as experiencing Gu'ulat Mitzrayim, Lehel Seder, and even now, as we're about to have the miracle of Kriyat Yam Suf tomorrow night, I think it's important for us to understand really what one of the major messages of Pesach are about, and one of the messages it means to be part of Am Yisrael. What does Hashem expect from us? What are the expectations of being part of the chosen people? So there are a couple of key things to this Chag in particular. One of them is matzah. Now matzah is very interesting because ultimately, one of the things we talk about in Leil Seder, the Haggadah, is we have matzah because the batzek itself couldn't rise fast enough. It wasn't possible due to our haste of leaving the chipazon of us leaving Mitzrayim. It couldn't rise. That's what we say every year. We said this a couple of days ago. But at the same time, we also know from before we left Mitzrayim, we were mitzvah because Baruch had a commandment for us to not eat chametz and to have matzah. I don't understand. It's a good question. It's a question that Maharal asks. It's a question I saw from Rav Millstone. If ultimately the goal was for us to have matzah, then what does it mean that it didn't rise, or we left so quickly? B'chipazon, the batzek itself could not complete its process. We knew we were going. And if it was a matter of us rushing out of Mitzrayim so quickly that it couldn't rise, so why did we receive the command in advance? With that in mind, I heard two great answers. Heard one answer, saw another answer. The Maharal's perspective about what matzah is about and what it represents is about the chipazon, the haste, and what that represents. Meaning, yes, we received this command both before we left Egypt, and even though we knew we were going to leave, there was an element of us rushing out that was critical to our experience, that was necessary for our development as a nation. Hence why, according to the Maharal, even though we received the commandment to have matzah before we left Egypt, nonetheless, we commemorate on Leil Seder the fact that the matzah didn't rise, because there's an importance with regards to haste, running quickly to serve Hakadosh Baruch Hu, jumping at the opportunity. There was a need for us to learn that. Rav David Millstone brought another idea in his Sefer Kiva Moed, where he said matzah was supposed to teach us an important trait and characteristic of being part of Am Yisrael. That was the idea of control. For slaves who were never in control, now they get to learn control. By the way, we only have one night a year where we're mechuyav, where we have the obligation to eat matzah, and that's Leil Seder. The rest of Pesach, there's no obligation to have matzah. Yes, it's good to have su'udot, and yes, it's important to have an yantif. But in terms of having matzah specifically, there's only one night a year that's a mitzvah. The rest of the time, there's an isser of chametz. Because one of the ideas he expresses, I think from Isaac Bernstein, if I recall correctly, is the notion of whether we're in control. When we rise versus when we stop. Or we're just going to inflate ourselves. And after one of the points Reverend Milson makes is that if we look at the way the Chazal talk about the wicked son, the Rasha, or the wayward son, some like to say, is that we blunt his teeth. Is that the father's supposed to confront his child and say, this way of being hedonistic is inappropriate. If you were a high school student, so I just want to sleep all day, I want to just give in to my urges all the time. The father's required. Leil Seder say, this is not good. This is not freedom. You are a slave to your environment. Many of us are slaves potentially to our cell phones, to society. Comes Leil Seder with the matzah as the expression of, you know what? Even though there are rules, this is the idea of zman cherutenu, real freedom, is expressed by us controlling when we say yes and when we say no. That we are in charge. Pesach was about us experiencing the true sense of freedom as Am Yisrael. To know how we choose and when to choose to do what we do. As a nation, we left And as a nation, we chose to go serve Hashem at Har Sinai and to receive the Torah. That is real freedom. Choosing to not eat now versus to not eat chametz now. And after choosing to have matzah now. That is the idea of freedom towards versus freedom from, which is an idea that Rabbi Sachs Zitzal speaks about in many locations. Are we the one in control, or is our body, our urges in control? Let's not be slaves to our desires, but rather let us be free to choose what and when and where we go and how we serve Hashem. And that specifically is one of the ideas of the idea of Rosh Chodesh being being the first mitzvah in the Torah, and right when Am Yisrael is going out of Egypt. The choice of what you do with your time. We have to choose to maximize our time properly, to serve Hashem properly. Chag Kasher v'Sameach.